Hi guys, hope everybody's well and safe. This first video that we're going to do is just a short kind of review and introduction to the chords. And we want to remind you that this page 49 in the back of the Hal Leonard book is the chord list that we're using. And we're looking at pictures or tablatures of the chord where the strings are the vertical lines and the frets are the horizontal lines. The black piece is the nut, and X means do not play the string, and O means include the open string, and O behind the nut there. So in that packet number 5 that I gave you, there was some distinctions that Disler made about the chords. One thing we should say right away is that a chord has a root that every note is built off of or measured from, you could say. Every chord has a starting point, just like we learned about scales. A C scale starts on C, and all the notes are measured from C. In a C chord, the C is the root, and all the notes are measured from the root. Now for this class, we're not concerned about the spelling of chords at this point, more the picture and, diagram of the chord, so that we can learn them quickly and efficiently and start to use them right away. And we can get into the spelling later on down the road as a guitar player, in Guitar 2, or just, again, in our further study. So the next distinction we made after saying that a chord has a root was that the root is always the lowest tone of a chord on this list. So that's not true out in the musical world. The root can sometimes be displaced out of the bass and not be the lowest tone, but for our list here, the root will always be the lowest tone that you play, so closest to your face as you're playing down the guitar. So then another distinction was made in the Disler packet, which was once we know that the root is the lowest tone, she categorized them in two different and what I believe are helpful categories to think about the chords. One is that the open strings are used as bass notes or root notes, and closed or fretted notes are used as root notes. So if I look at the row of E chords here, and I suggested looking at the open string chords first, or open root chords first, we have an E major chord, which is open 6th string, 2nd fret, 5th string, 2nd fret, 4th string, and there's a G sharp in there on the 3rd string, 1st fret, and then 2 open strings up top, and I would play all 6 strings with the E in the bass. So that E string is in the bass. We also should mention at this point, or I should mention, that the bass notes that are open are going to be our 6th, 5th, and 4th string notes. So we have E chords with open E in the bass, we have A chords with open A in the bass, and we have D chords with the open D string in the bass. So if I start by practicing the E major chord, the E chord, then it becomes pretty easy to just modify the chord by lifting up my index finger and playing open, 2nd, 2nd, open, open, open. And you can hear the mood change from a brighter major chord sound to a minor chord quality there. The E chord, if I start there again with an open 4th string, D string in the middle of the chord, produces E7. So now I'm playing open, 2nd, open, 1st, open, open. Open 6th string, 2nd fret, 5th string, open D, which gives it the 7th quality, 7th tone above E, G sharp, the G sharp's 1st fret of the G string, open B, and open E. So I had E, E minor, E7. And E7, by the way, is a major chord because of the G sharp there that's still in the chord that keeps it major. So if I moved accordingly, now thinking of the bass notes, the next group of chords would be the A chords with the 5th string in the bass, and notice the X on the 6th string. I do not include the 6th string anymore. So the A chord would be playing open A in the bass, and then playing 2nd fret on the D string, 2nd fret on the G string, 2nd fret on the B string, and open E. And there is a C sharp in that chord, 2nd fret of the B string. When that C sharp gets lowered to a C natural, that's when we get the minor quality of this chord. And once again, if I play C7, the C sharp would be back in the chord. I would get open 2nd fret on the D string, open G string, 2nd fret on the B string, and open E. Where the A is open 2nd fret, open 5th string, 2nd fret D string, 2nd fret G string, 2nd fret B string, and open E. And the minor chord is open A, 2nd fret on the D string, 2nd fret on the G string, 1st fret, the C natural on the B string, and open E. And following that path again with the open string chords would be the D chords next. And the D chord will show you to X off the 6th string and the 5th string and put the D in the bass. This one really requires you to stand your fingers up so that they're not laying down and touching the adjacent strings. I've got open D, 2nd fret A, 3rd fret on the B string is D, and then there's an F sharp in the top of that chord. And the F sharp again is the note that's making the chord sound bright and happy and major. So if I flat that note and play open D, 2nd fret on the G string, 3rd fret on the B string, and 1st fret of the high E string, now I get that minor quality, D minor. And then for D7, I'm going to play open D, 2nd fret on the G string, which is an A, a C, that's important because it makes the chord sound like a 7th chord, and an F sharp up top. So that's 9 chords right there. A major chord for E and A and D, a minor chord for E, A, and D, and a 7th chord for E, A, and D. So if I look at some of these fretted chords, and I start on the 6th string, I would be looking at the G chords, G and G7. I did mention that we can change the fingering, and you can experiment with all of these fingerings too, but we put our 2nd finger in the bass on the 3rd fret for G. That's the G root there. Now we have our first fretted note in the bass. Index finger on B, 2nd fret of the A string, open D, open G, open B, and 3rd fret of the high E, which is another G. There's actually 3 G's in this chord, the low G, the middle G, and the high G, and a very common guitar chord. The G7 uses the G in the bass with your 3rd finger, 2nd finger on B, on the A string, 2nd fret, open D, open G, open B, and a bit of a stretch to get that F on top. If I move down 1 string to the letter name C, I get another chord that would require not playing the 6th string now, but playing 5th string, 3rd fret, 4th string, 2nd fret, which is an E letter name, open G, C on the first fret of the B string and open E. Again, really requires standing your fingers up and having relatively short fingernails on your left hand, and I'm playing 5th string in the bass. If I add my pinky on B flat, like we learned in the F scale, the B flat on the G string, 3rd fret, so I'm still playing the C chord, but I'm adding the B flat, and I get that 7th chord quality again, which is a little bit musically unstable and sour sounding in its own way, but that is a very common sound in music and used quite often. So the only 2 chords I have left on the list are F, which notice has a fretted bass note. Not every chord has a 3rd fret bass note like G, C, or F, but in this case the list contains those chords. I have F, 3rd fret of the D string, A, 2nd fret of the G string, and then index across the top 2 strings. And notice my knuckle is out in front. If I'm behind the guitar this way, I'm not going to be able to play that chord. I've got to come out front, bring those knuckles forward, and then I'm laying down on the side of my tip, not flat and not too far out, but kind of on the side of my finger. And that has 3rd fret in the bass. And the B7 chord, to round the list off, has a B on the A string, index finger on the D string, D sharp, then there's 3rd finger A, so I make a little almost like a triangle D7 shape, but down a couple sets of strings. I've got 2nd fret A string, 1st fret D string, 3rd fret G string, open B, and F sharp on top. And 5th string is in the bass. So when I played the G chord, the 6th string was in the bass. When I played the C chord, the 5th string was in the bass. And when I played the F chord, the 4th string was in the bass. And then when I played B7, we went back to a 5th string root. Okay, so that's just the basic review of that list for this video. And we will stop there and add more of the chapter reading in the next videos. Thank you.